Hi guys and welcome back to Faster Podcast Season 2 Episode 6. Today we're talking about the F1 2021 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. The race was hosted at the Imola circuit, that is a very famous circuit in the world. I think one of the greatest circuits in the world. And of course you have to expect an amazing race. You know, during Saturday we've seen a hot day, a sunny day, and quite normal qualifying. Only Norris was qualified P2, but then him had his time deleted because of track limits, and then went down on P8. But then the previous turn in Q2, Lance Stroll did the same, and his time wasn't deleted. So it's a problem of sensors. Sometimes it turns on, sometimes it doesn't turn on, and maybe also if you're at you see, with your eye, you see that oh my god, those two drivers are exactly in the same place. Maybe it's that millimeter that makes the difference between turning on or turning not on the sensor, and so deleting or maybe not your time. It's a strange thing because sometimes are deleted, some other no, and from the outside you see that the driver is exactly in the same position. So you have to change the rule. You have to maybe put back the grass. So if you go out the track, you know that you're going to spin, you're going to crash, and you know that you haven't to go out the track. In Imola, it's better that we got no grass outside of the curbs, because it's a so fast track and also so dangerous track, with the barriers very close to the track for the speed you take that turn. So yeah, we've seen many years ago, during 80s, during 90s, many big crashes in Tamburello, like Senna's, like Ratzenberger, and also in all the track, Barrichello, many other drivers crashed out, and also with the motorbikes, because Imola is a track where also motorbikes goes. So you see, we've seen in Superbike a lot of crashes, big crashes overall. Yeah, it's a tricky track if it's in dry condition. You have just to think what is going to happen if it's going to be wet. Another way you could use to avoid drivers to go off the track and take advantage, and delete their time. If you can't, for safety reasons, of course, put the grass outside of the curbs, you could put, like in Abu Dhabi, like in many other tracks, you could put a big curb, a higher curb, that yellow higher curb. That if you go over it, your car just stands up and you lose a lot of time. But why in Imola you can do it? Because Imola, Barcelona, and other tracks are tracks where are running also motorbikes. And as we seen with raining back at the start of 90s, if a driver falls down and takes and crashes over one of those big curbs, you could easily break your bones, and like had happened to Rainy, you could remain in a wheelchair. You could actually lose the control of your legs. So it's so dangerous putting those high curbs in tracks where are running also bikes. So you have to, in these tracks, you have to find a way. I think right now this is the best option we could use, but the only thing is that it have to be upgraded, because you can delete time, yes, and the lap later, no. It's a not good made thing. But then, if in Friday, Saturday, we've seen a sunny weekend and a hot weekend, we all were expecting a hot and sunny race. Well, the race actually wasn't sunny at all. It was sunny since 1 hour to the start. Then the sky started to be a bit more cloudy and a bit more over, until at 20 minutes to the start, maybe 15 minutes to the start, it started raining in the Tamburello section, on the first sector. So riders went off with maybe some drivers with intermediate tires, some other with full wets, and starting making a few laps around the track to understand how it would be in the first few laps. Some drivers, some very experienced drivers, like Alonso, who won the World Championship, crashed out, spun around in those laps. And so you could understand that the track conditions were quite hard, quite hard to go fast for. You know, here in Italy, you were seeing a lot of people who were living next to the track, standing up on the top, on the roof of their house. It was quite risky overall because there was a lot of wind and it was also raining, so they could actually kill themselves and falling down. But you know, they had to see the race, and it was quite crazy, you know. But it's Italy. It was quite funny to see, and my God, that was so dangerous anyway. But then started raining, the race started, everyone was in intermediate tires, and some drivers were running full wets. The first turn was actually crazy, because you were starting the first 100 of meters, the track was actually dry. Then after 100 of meters there was a lot of water coming up from the tires, and if you were in third, fourth position, you were actually seeing nothing. The only two drivers who were seeing something were Verstappen and Hamilton, who were the first two. Then on the first turn, they touched themselves. They actually didn't touch it. It felt like they touched it, but they didn't touch it. And Hamilton went a bit wide on turn 1, Verstappen took the advantage, and on turn 2 went in front, and then never during the race, never left the head of the race. It was actually my God, amazing race by Verstappen, lead that from the first turn to the last turn, amazing. And he wasn't starting in pole because he was starting in second place, so really amazing. During the race, then you know, it was starting raining harder and harder and harder, and some drivers who were in the first maybe 6 laps with full wet tires were going so fast, like Gasly. He was so fast. Then after 5, 6, 10 laps, just completely stopped raining, and the track wasn't more a full wet track, it was a intermediate track. So drivers with full wet tires like Gasly lost a lot of times, and I don't know why. AlphaTauri waited so many laps to make him pit, because he lost a lot of positions. He was like 5th when it stopped raining, and then he pitted and went back on track in penultimate place, maybe last place. Wow, AlphaTauri made him lose a lot of time that he had to recover. Then anyway recovered, because Gasly is a very strong rider. I was expecting a bit more from Tsunoda, but you know, it was raining, so it's okay. He's a rookie. He spun one more time during the race, and that's okay. It could be okay. Then on the first lap, Latifi, who started in an amazing way, because you have to know that Williams did, I think, the best qualifying since 2018, 2017. Not as a result, but if you think at the car they got and at the result both drivers did, because Russell qualified P12 and Latifi qualified P14, so it's wow, my God, amazing for two Williams, both Williams overall. So Latifi started in a fantastic way. After a half of the first lap, he was P8, then unluckily spun around at the Acqua Minerale and went back on track, but collided with Mazepin. It was actually Latifi's fault. Mazepin was involved because he had no more space. He was actually being pushed on the grass. So Latifi collided, turned into Mazepin and crashed into the wall. Then we had a safety car who changed a bit of everything. With that safety car, Mick Schumacher, unluckily, while he was trying to warm up his tires, crashed, spun like did Russell in 2020. He was trying to warm up his tires, lost his car, and crashed into the wall on the straight. He wasn't able to come back on pit, cause during the safety car the pit lane is closed, and it was also quite dangerous because he had to do 3 laps without front wing, and with also on a wet track, which is so dangerous, and he completely lost that race. He was the race was over for him because he had nothing else to do. He lost everything with that error. But anyway, he recovered. His engineer was so good. It was like, okay, Mick, we lost nothing. Then with 2 laps that the safety car comes in and we'll be able to fight back and recover time. That's a really good engineer, I have to say. The race continued, and we've seen the track drying up, and some drivers like Sainz picking up pace, a lot of pace, was so fast. He made in like 5 laps, made 2 errors who cost him like 20 seconds maybe, and he was running time over the McLarens. Then made a mistake. In 2 laps, he was one more time down to the McLaren that made another mistake. Maybe in 5 laps, he lost 20 seconds, and he earned one more time those 20 seconds lost. So he was incredibly quick on that condition, on that not completely dry condition. Also, Leclerc was quite fast, but not much as Sainz. But Sainz was behind Leclerc because he was stuck behind the 2 McLarens. Norris, with a team order, passed Ricciardo, and then being able to show us his what was actually his pace. And oh my god, it was so fast! It was a very good pace. And Ricciardo, didn't had so much pace. He wasn't so strong, but at only his second race with McLaren, and also in Imola with the rain. It was quite good, but if you think that last year in Imola he did a 3rd place, you was expecting a bit more from Ricciardo. Anyway, we could say that the Perez did a lot of mistakes, because had also a stop and go penalty, because during the safety car he spun around, then lost like 2 position, went in track and overtakes those 2 drivers to took back his position. But he didn't have to do that. I think, by my point of view, Perez did the right thing. By the FIA point of view, he did the wrong thing, so I have to say that he did the wrong thing. But, he spun around, just took back his position, so I think it was okay. But anyway, he took those stop and go penalty in a race that was anyway bad, because then he spun, but we'll talk about it later. Then the race was going and the track was drying up. Drivers pitted to put slick tires. The first one was Sebastian Vettel, who had completely lost his pace with the intermediate tires, and pitted and putted the dry tires, not soft but mediums. It was quite a lot of risk doing that. And of course, the first 3-4 laps he was losing a lot of time. Then he'd been able to understand how to go with those tires. He'd been able to warm up his tires and to find the right slipstream, maybe the right trajectory, the dry trajectory. And 3 laps, like he lost a lot of time. Then the 4th, fastest lap after fastest lap. Everyone was pitting. So while Vettel had stopped and so many drivers were stopping, Verstappen and Hamilton didn't stop and were still running with intermediate tires. Because Verstappen was like 2 seconds in front of Hamilton, and they were lapping a bit of drivers like Russell, like Raikkonen, like Bottas also. So they were lapping the drivers between P8 and P12, P13, because they were everyone so close. Then Hamilton made a big mistake because while trying to overtake Russell, he went on the wet side of the track. No, un cacchio, mi sono confuso. Then everyone pitted, and Verstappen and Hamilton were both on medium tires, and were trying to hit their tires. And also they had to fight themselves because Verstappen was 2 seconds in front of Hamilton and Hamilton was recovering. But they had to they had some lap drivers in front of them. But they had to lap some drivers, like all the drivers running from P8 to P12, like Russell, like Raikkonen, like also Bottas, who was lapped. So Hamilton, with to not lose time over Verstappen, with the slick tires went into the wet part of the track, and then one time he went back on the dry wave of the track, he just went on the throttle and lost his car. He lost the rear of his car, and went on the gravel and touched the wall, so smooth. But he anyway broke his wing. Then he had to went back, try to make an horrible move because he was going reverse on the track, and then put it one more time, the first gear in, and went one more time over, and he lost like more than 30 seconds to Verstappen, so his race was actually over for the winner. He was like P7, P8. So what happened in that lap? I said that the riders between P8 and P12 were everyone so close. There was Raikkonen, there was Russell, there was Bottas. Bottas and Russell had been the K of this Grand Prix. Why? Because Bottas was in P9 with a Mercedes in slick tires, and Russell was in P10 with a Williams, that is anyway something so good, with slick tires. What was thinking Russell? I don't know. The only thing I know, Russell was overtaking a Mercedes with a Williams. It's like you got a Ferrari and I got I don't know, a Fiat. And I'm overtaking you. You are running in a Ferrari and you're being overtaken by me in a Fiat, in a truck. So in a condition where you have to be the fastest, but you aren't. I'm the fastest in a Fiat and you're in a Ferrari. This is the compare between Williams and Mercedes in Formula 1 in those years. So Russell went out from the slipstream on the principal straight, on the pit lane straight, and before the first turn there's a little bit of a snake, like a bit turn before the tamburello, where you actually went out to overtake. But Hamilton did the same with Norris a few laps later. But Hamilton, maybe for experience, maybe because he is a 7-time world champion, Norris just, made like a little bit wide and turned a bit to the right. Hamilton passed anyway, stayed in track and passed passed Norris. Bottas did the same. Bottas did his trajectory like Norris and turned a bit to the right. But what happened? Russell was next to him, so Bottas coming a bit close to him, and Russell take a bit of scare and turned a bit to the right. But to the right, Russell had the wet grass. So from the onboard video, you can hear the sound that Russell goes in the grass and completely lost grip, and his car goes like, whoa, bam, and then they've crashed. So Russell goes a lot high with RPMs because he lost grip with his rear tire. Then he lost grip and his car just lost control and turned into Bottas like at 320 kilometers per hour, something like that. They've crashed into Tamburello, who luckily didn't happen nothing, because what happened to Senna on the 1st of May of 1994. He died in Tamburello. The track is different from then, but you know, anyway, it's a big crash, that one who involved Russell and Bottas. So they went out okay, completely okay physically. Russell, after the crash, just went out furious from his car and went to Bottas' cars, where Bottas was still inside. Bottas made a middle finger to Russell, and Russell slapped into the head of Bottas. So they were actually so angry between those two, and it was also the adrenaline, cause you know, Russell thought he was right, Bottas thought he was right. Who was actually right? I have to say Bottas. And in the next podcast, I'll tell you why. Then, with this big crash, there were debris everywhere in the track. There was another safety car, and this safety car really helped Hamilton, because Hamilton was able, before the pit lane closing, was able to went in the pit lane, change his tires, change his nose overall, who was broke, and restart again. Then recovered, easily recovered. With the restart, there was Verstappen in P1 and Leclerc in P2. Verstappen on the penultimate turn lost his car and seemed like he was crashing out, he was spinning under safety car, but then he'd been able to keep the car on track and, you know, made a bit of slalom, a bit of zigzag, and on the principal straight, bam, accelerated, and actually Leclerc, who was in second place, hadn't been able to accelerate at the right time. So Norris completely smoked Leclerc on straight and took second place. Then Hamilton recovered position. Perez spun out, Tsunoda spun out. In like 3 laps, both drivers spun out. Hamilton took like that 2 position, then overtake after overtake. He was so fast and went back in 4th place. He was in 4th place, why? Because there was Verstappen in 1st, Norris in 2nd, and Leclerc in 3rd. He'd been able to pass Leclerc, while Leclerc was actually trying to save himself with the slipstream of Norris, but 1 lap lost the slipstream, and Hamilton, like a warplane, completely smoked him and took the 3rd place. Then in the laps later, Norris was able to earn during the corners a second. That second was actually crucial for him, because with that second of gap between him and Hamilton wasn't able to turn on the DRS, so was a little bit slower on the straight. Hamilton was faster, but wasn't that fast to overtake actually Norris. But 1 lap Norris by mistake in some turns clipped by mistake clipped the friction button, and you know, his car wasn't actually exiting so good from turns, because he had his friction which was sliding. He was losing a bit of traction, you know. And with that, Hamilton been able to stay under the second, and in the straight, hit up Norris. So and with that also Hamilton, with that big slipstream and with the big DRS, been able to, with that extra speed in the straight, to take the fastest lap of the race. And that point had been crucial, because with that point at the end of the race, Hamilton was still in the lead of the championship. Giovinazzi, who was in front of Raikkonen, I was expecting this was actually the right time. He will be able to went in the top 10 in points, and he actually was in like 11th, was fighting for the points. And then what happened? A stripwire removed from a driver in front of him went straight into his air intake of the rear brake. So the air wasn't able to cool down the brake, and his brake was overheating. So what he had to do, to not retire or crash or had the brake problems that could have been dangerous, he had to pit, stop the car. The mechanics had to remove this this trip wise been able to continue, but he lost one more time in points. Raikkonen, who like 2020 saw Russell crash behind in front of him, did an amazing race. Because for the entire race, almost the entire race, been able with a slower car to keep behind both Alpines, to keep behind Perez, to keep behind Stroll, to keep behind Gasly, who were much faster than him. But then at the end of the race, FIA gave him time penalty because he didn't respect the race restart conditions. So he went a bit too fast under safety car and he had this time penalty. It's quite a shame because he was doing a good race, but yeah. Then we got the 12 team who did 9th with Ocon, 10th with Alonso. I was expecting less, I have to say, because in qualifying they weren't strong at all, and there was also the rain, and looking at Alonso spinning on the opening, on the first few laps before the race, I thought they wouldn't been able to do a good race, but then Ocon did an amazing race, and also Alonso recovered positions, and then, that's it, they did a good race. Vettel, quite a shame, because he'd been the first to pit for slick tires, and then at the end retired because of a brake problem. So, unlucky, man. Mazepin did a good race, clean race, unluckily spin at the last few laps. But then anyway, it's a good race by Mazepin. So good race. I wish it to be like that for the entire rest of the season and maybe getting better. Then we got Mercedes, who did like an up and down at the end, Also Red Bull did an up and down, because Mercedes and Red Bull both have first Verstappen for Red Bull and second Hamilton for Mercedes. And the down side is that Perez finished the race in 11th after spinning, and Bottas crashed out while he was being overtaken by a William. So not a good race at all for both the second drivers, we could call him, for both Bottas and Perez, not second drivers. We could say that Williams' weekend was, I don't know how to call it, was like Godzilla, I don't know. It was a destroying weekend over every point of view, because they did an amazing qualifying, a destroying qualifying, because nobody was expecting to see both Williams in Q2 and qualifying P12 and P14. And they were also doing a destroying race for all the others, because on the first lap there was Latifi in P8, then spun and crashed out unluckily. And there was Russell in P10 who was taking the position of Bottas in a Williams, Russell. And then, as I said, devastating weekend because both crashed out, destroyed their cars. So, Williams in less than one day, went from starts to stables. From being the actually heroes of the weekend, qualifying P12 and P14, making an amazing race, and crashing out both. It's, We'll see what is going to happen in Portimao in the next race. So guys, thank you for having spent those minutes with me. See you next time. Bye bye. Ciao ciao.